You've probably heard that aggression is important in poker, but do you know when and how to play aggressively? My name is Alexandre Mantovani, also known as Cavalito, and today I'm going to share 5 tips to help you introduce more aggression into your poker game. Identify which boards are better for your range. When we raise and get called, there are some boards we can be very aggressive on. Let's assume that we open raise from early position and get called by the big blind. Any board that has one or more high cards, jack or higher, is usually a good board for us, and in the vast majority of them, we can bet our entire range. Picture a king-queen-deuce rainbow flop, for example. We have a lot of very strong hands in our range that our opponent simply does not have. We can have kings, queens, aces, and ace-king, which probably all of them our opponent would 3-bet pre-flop. So even if we have a part of our range that doesn't connect with this board, like ace-8 suited for example, we can still bet, and our opponent will have a hard time with a lot of hands they have, even folding better hands than ours, like pocket nines for example. Explore capped ranges. Another opportunity to be more aggressive is when your opponents have capped ranges. This time we open from the hijack and our opponent defends the big blind. We see a jack 10-5 flush draw flop and our opponent just calls our continuation bet. It's very likely that with this more connected board texture, our opponent would raise their strong hands aggressively, because a lot of scary cards can come out on the turn. Basically, any card from the 7 to the ace and any heart would make it pretty unlikely for our opponent to just have called us with a hand like ace-jack. That means that if the turn is a blank, we can play very aggressively, since our opponent is going to have at most a weaker jack-x type of hand, but usually a 10x or worse, and they're going to have a hard time calling down. Identifying these scenarios will increase your aggression naturally and will turn you into a very hard opponent to play against. Size matters. Being smart about the size of our bets is another way to add aggression to your poker game, as your bet sizes will have a direct impact on your opponent's continuing range. If you're playing against the big blind on a 9-5-3 flop and you bet 1 big blind, your opponent is going to continue with any piece of the board. On the other hand, if you bet full pot with this texture, our opponent is definitely going to fold most of their 3x, 5x, and weak straight draws. Your bet sizing will also have a big impact on how the hand is going to be played on future streets. If you bet 1 big blind on the flop and the turn is a 3, you should be somewhat careful because your opponent is going to have this card in their range more often. However, if you bet full pot on the flop and the turn is a 3, you can keep betting your best hands for value and be less concerned that your opponent has hit that card. Think about which part of the range you're targeting. With all of the poker training software out there these days, sometimes people forget that poker is a game of people and logic, and sound logic sometimes gets very similar results as software does. Let's go back to jack 10-5 flush draw. Turn 6, river king, and we have a hand like king queen suited. We know our opponent has gotten to the river with a weak jack most of the time, so we can still extract value from these hands with a not so large bet, like half pot. In the same context, we are going to have some bluffs like queen 8 suited, and some value hands like ace queen or queen 9, and these hands benefit from very large bets. Queen 8 to make the opponent fold their weak jack-x, and ace queen, queen 9 to make the opponent call with king queen or king 10 that they might have connected. Knowing which part of your opponent's range you're targeting will help you choose when to turn up the aggression. Know when to shut down. Even though the video is about aggression, it is important to remember that sometimes you have to just shut down. Aggression increases your profitability when now executed in the right spots, but sometimes we just have to shut down or we're going to lose a big chunk of this profitability. On the previous 9-5-3 board scenarios, we bet pot and get called. Turn 8, we bet again and get called again. Then the river pairs the 9. This is a scenario that we have to be very selective about both our value hands and our bluffs. By betting twice on this board, our opponent's range gets to the river as mostly 9x or better. So not value betting a hand like pocket 10s and shutting down sometimes with our bluffs like ace-deuce is important. As you can see, there are plenty of opportunities for you to introduce more aggression to your game. Study these spots and see for yourself what impact being more aggressive can have on your profitability. Which spots do you struggle with being more aggressive? Let us know in the comments below. 888 Poker, made to play.